It sounds impossible. A lone Allied soldier, surrounded, disarmed, and outnumbered, facing the full might of the Wehrmacht. Yet, in the chaos of war, the line between defeat and defiance can vanish in a heartbeat. This is the story of Private First Class Charles "Red" Coward, a paratrooper of the 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. The date, June 8, 1944. The place, a hedgerow-lined field near Amfreville, Normandy, just 2 days after D-Day. The world was watching the beaches, but in the bocage, a single man would make history. What happened next would become legendary. The Allied invasion of Normandy had begun just 48 hours earlier. Operation Overlord was underway, and the 82nd Airborne had been dropped behind enemy lines to seize key bridges and disrupt German reinforcements. The terrain was a nightmare: dense hedgerows, narrow lanes, and fields crisscrossed by ditches and stone walls. Every step was a risk. Private Coward, a 23-year-old from Oklahoma, had landed far from his intended drop zone. Like many paratroopers that night, he was alone, cut off from his unit, and deep in enemy territory. The 507th's mission was to secure the Murderette River crossings, but scattered landings and fierce German resistance had thrown the plan into chaos. Coward was no stranger to adversity. He'd grown up during the Dust Bowl, learning to survive on grit and determination. In training, he'd earned a reputation for quick thinking and a sense of humor that never seemed to fade, even under fire. By June 8th, the 507th was battered. German units, including elements of the 91st Air Landing Division and the 6th Parachute Regiment, were counterattacking with everything they had. The Allies were outnumbered, outgunned, and exhausted. Every hedgerow was a potential ambush. For Coward, the war had become intensely personal. He'd seen friends killed, watched villages burn, and felt the weight of command decisions that sent men into the unknown. Yet, he pressed on, driven by a sense of duty and the hope that every small victory mattered. By 1400 hours on June 8th, the situation near Amfreville was desperate. Coward, separated from his platoon, was moving cautiously along a sunken lane, his M1A1 carbine at the ready. The air was thick with the smell of cordite and the distant rumble of artillery. Overhead, the sky was a patchwork of clouds and smoke. Suddenly, a burst of German shouted commands echoed from the hedgerow. Coward froze. Out of the brush emerged a squad of German Fallschirmjäger, paratroopers, elite and ruthless. There were at least 21 of them, armed with MP-40 submachine guns, Kar 98K rifles, and a single MG-42 machine gun. Coward had no chance. He was ordered to drop his weapon and raise his hands. The Germans searched him, laughing as they found only a pocket knife and a crumpled photograph of his sweetheart. They marched him into a small clearing, where the squad leader, Feldwebel Hans Kruger, began interrogating him in broken English. The Germans were confident. They had captured an American paratrooper, proof of their prowess. They joked among themselves, passing around cigarettes and boasting about their victories. Coward, forced to his knees, listened in silence, his mind racing. He noticed details. The MG-42 was set up on a tripod, its loader distracted. The squad was clustered together, weapons slung casually. The Feldwebel's Luger was holstered, just out of reach. The Germans were relaxed, certain of their superiority. But Coward was watching, waiting. He remembered his training. Never give up, never stop looking for an opening. The seconds ticked by. Sweat trickled down his back. The sun beat down, casting sharp shadows across the field. By 14-15 hours, the Germans prepared to move out, intending to march their prisoner back to battalion headquarters. Coward's hands were bound behind his back with a length of wire. The squad formed up, weapons at the ready, but their attention was divided. Some argued about the best route. Others joked about the Yankee they'd caught. Little did they know, Coward was about to make his move. The moment everything seemed lost arrived in an instant. As the squad began to move, a low-flying P-47 Thunderbolt roared overhead, strafing a nearby German position. The sudden noise sent the squad into confusion. Some ducked, others looked skyward, momentarily blinded by the sun. Coward seized his chance. With a surge of adrenaline, he twisted his wrists, snapping the wire against the edge of a stone. Pain shot through his hands, but the wire gave way. In one fluid motion, he lunged at the nearest German, driving his shoulder into the man's midsection. The soldier staggered, dropping his MP-40. Coward snatched the weapon, flicked the safety, and fired a burst into the cluster of Germans. The sound was deafening, short, sharp, and final. The squad scattered, some diving for cover, others fumbling with their weapons. But Coward was relentless. He pivoted, firing controlled bursts, each shot finding its mark. The MG-42 team tried to swing their weapon around, but Coward dropped them with a single burst. The Feldwebel drew his Luger, but Coward was faster, cutting him down before he could fire. The air was filled with shouts, gunfire, and the acrid smell of cordite. Coward moved with the precision of a man fighting for his life. He reloaded, grabbed a fallen grenade, and hurled it into a group of Germans huddled behind a hedge. The explosion sent earth and bodies flying. For 45 seconds, chaos reigned. When the smoke cleared, 21 Germans lay dead or dying. Coward, bloodied but unbowed, stood alone in the clearing, the MP-40 smoking in his hands. He had done the impossible. Coward knew he couldn't stay. German reinforcements would be on the way. He quickly searched the bodies, grabbing extra magazines, a canteen, and a map. He paused over the Feldwebel, taking the Luger as a grim trophy. Moving swiftly, he slipped into the hedgerows, using the map to orient himself toward friendly lines. The terrain was unforgiving, thick with brambles, mud sucking at his boots, the distant crack of rifle fire echoing through the fields. For hours, Coward evaded German patrols, using every trick he'd learned in training. He crawled through ditches, doubled back to confuse trackers, and used the sun to guide his way west. Hunger gnawed at him, but adrenaline kept him moving. By dusk, he reached a farmhouse held by elements of the 325th Glider Infantry Regiment. Exhausted, he collapsed at the feet of a startled lieutenant, gasping out his story. At first, they didn't believe him, but the blood, the captured weapons, and the haunted look in his eyes told the truth. Word spread quickly. Coward's actions became the talk of the regiment. Officers interviewed him, piecing together the details. The bodies were found the next day. 21 Germans, most killed at close range, the clearing still littered with spent casings and shattered equipment. What Coward had done was more than survival. It was a testament to the power of training, courage, and the refusal to surrender. Against impossible odds, he had turned captivity into victory. In the days that followed, Coward was recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross. His actions were cited as an extraordinary display of valor and initiative, resulting in the elimination of a significant enemy force and the disruption of German operations in the sector. The official after-action report listed 21 enemy dead, with no Allied casualties. The weapons Coward had captured were sent to division headquarters as evidence. His story was retold in mess halls and foxholes, inspiring others to fight on. For Coward, the war continued. He rejoined his unit, fighting through the hedgerows of Normandy, the frozen forests of the Ardennes, and the final push into Germany. He survived the war, returning home to Oklahoma, where he lived a quiet life, rarely speaking of what had happened that day near Amfreville. But those who served with him never forgot. His name became a legend in the 82nd Airborne, a symbol of what one determined soldier could achieve when all hope seemed lost. The legacy of Private First Class Charles Red Coward endures. His actions remind us that, in the darkest moments, the human spirit can shine brightest. The cost was high, 21 lives lost in 45 seconds, but for Coward and his comrades, it was a victory snatched from the jaws of defeat. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War. Subscribe to World War II Records as we continue to bring these forgotten chapters of history back to life.